Hi, everyone, and welcome to Learnosity's series of on-demand webinars. Thank you for joining us today for our third and final long-term support webinar of 2025. For any viewers unfamiliar with our long-term support releases, they're strong, complete, and stable versions of our APIs. 3 times a year, we release these production-ready versions of our APIs, which we then support for 2 years. My name is Audrey Young, and I'm a Learnosity product manager based in California. Later in the webinar, I'll also be joined by my fellow product manager, Monet Slanowski. AI is transforming learning. To thrive, learning platforms need to adapt. That's why Learnosity is already shipping your AI roadmap. As the global leader in AI for assessment, Learnosity invests heavily in R&D to stimulate new ways of imagining the assessment experience for product owners, creators, and learners. Our latest major release showcases some powerful new AI innovations by AI Labs, our trailblazing team of AI specialists, as well as accessibility and stability updates to popular question types. Let's just briefly run through what's new in our latest release. In AI scoring, we've got quick and easy access to Feedback Aide via core Learnosity APIs. In accessibility, we'll look at improvements to our graphing question type, including upgraded screen reader support, keyboard navigation, and visual contrast. In assessment, we'll cover a new browser incompatibility alert on our video question type. In other updates, we'll explore more functions in Feedback Aide with AI score justification, additional rubric guidance, and support for Math, ML, and LaTeX. Editing AI-generated suggestions and item tagging on export in Item Bank Health Check. So let's kick things off by looking at AI scoring.
Thanks, Audrey. Let's kick off by talking about quick and easy access to AI scoring. Feedback Aide, our AI scoring engine, is now accessible to all customers by the core Learnosity APIs, meaning you can start auto-scoring questions, open response, constructed response questions without needing to build an integration yourself. To activate this, just get in touch with your CSM.
Let's take a look at the integration. Here we are in the author API. I'm going to go and I'm going to edit this item, which we've pre-filled for us. You can see here is our normal essay with rich text question. Feedback Aide is only integrated with essay with rich text right now, and you can enable it using the scoring section down here. So when I click score with Feedback Aide, you'll see I get a new button that will either say create rubric if the rubric hasn't been created yet, or edit, and our max score is grayed out here because that is then derived from the rubric. So when I click this button, I get my rubric editor. I can choose from any of the short response types, general categories, key points, and X from Y. Short response because they lend themselves best to auto scoring, which is what we have here. So here's an X from Y rubric. In this one, the learner needs to identify X correct answers from a list of Y valid answers. So here they need to identify 3 factors that can hurt an ecosystem. So we have here numerous correct responses. I think there's a total of 6 correct responses. This is the editing where I can go and I can edit my correct responses, add incorrects, etc. Here is our preview so I can see what that rubric looks like with each of these valid points earning 1 mark. So I'll save that and then go to assessment. This is, as always, what the learner sees. So it's exactly the same as what they would usually see. Here is my assessment player. I would have the ability to go in and edit and write an answer to this question, identifying those 3 distinct factors. And then when I, as the learner, am happy with my answer, I click submit. Then we will see automatically that these questions are scored. So here we go, going in item 1, this learner scored 2 out of 3. So just like with our auto-scored question types, multiple choice, etc., this is now auto-scoring constructed response questions, which is super powerful for getting feedback to learners quickly. Now, the other thing I can do is I don't need to stop here with just having the score for the learner. What you're able to do now is you can take the session information that was produced during the scoring and use that to initialize Feedback Aide. So we're going to pull Feedback Aide up here. And this is the same session that just ran in the scoring for the learner. And so I can see now there's my learner's response. I can see the mark. of the 2 out of 3, and I get the full rubric shown here, as well as the feedback to the learner. And this can be run and fetched in the UI mode as we see here, or in RESTful API mode if you want to display the feedback somewhere in your product. All right, now let's move on to Audrey.
Thanks, Monet. Now moving on to accessibility. Accessibility enhancements to the graphing question type include enhanced point-to-point movement, alt text available for background images, and improved keyboard navigation, screen reader support, and visual contrast, taking graphing from not supported to fully supports in VPAT reporting. Let's take a closer look. Looking at our graphing question type, we've made a few key accessibility enhancements. The first being that we now support alt text for background images. Looking at our demo, we can see that we have a pirate treasure map as the graph background image. And we can see that on the side, the screen reader messaging will announce the alt text for that graph background image. In addition, to better support keyboard navigation, when tabbing into the question, we'll now have a modal appear with instructions on how users can easily navigate and interact with the question. You can see we can use the left and right arrows to navigate the toolbar, space or enter to select the tool, and then use tab and shift tab to navigate between the toolbar and the graph plane. So tabbing in will now move us to the toolbar, where we can select the action or tool that we'd like to take. For this example, we'll use point, and then tabbing into the graphing plane, we can perform that action and plot our points. Yeah. And if a learner is ever confused and needs to refer back to the keyboard instructions, they can simply shift tab back into it and view them there. This will help ensure that learners are using the correct actions to interact with the graphing question and prevent any confusion as well. We've also made enhancements to how we move points. So in addition to dragging, users can now simply click a point and click it to its final destination with a single click. This gives them extra flexibility. All the while, our screen reader messaging has also been improved to better reflect these actions, making the graphing question type an even more accessible solution for learners.
Perfect. Thanks, Audrey. Let's move on to our next section now and see what's new in assessment. We've improved how the video question type detects and handles errors when using Chrome on iOS devices for video uploads. Now you get an early warning message to help prevent lost work or disruption during assessments. Finally, let's take a look at what else is new. In Feedback Aide, you can now clearly understand scoring decisions with our new AI score justification. You can better align scoring with expectations by adding grading guidance to your rubrics, and we can render STEM content with support for both MathML and LaTeX. Let's see some demonstrations. So the first feature we're going to take a look at here is justification of score. This is a new grader-facing feature. You can see here it's read-only, and it gives an explanation of why the score was awarded for each criteria on the rubric. So you can see we have understanding of the topic, and we have a very concise but referenceable explanation of why that score was awarded. This is particularly useful in cases where a second grader or an administrator is going to review the scoring, and that scoring for summative or higher stakes needs to be justified. Now we're going to talk about additional grading guidance. Here's an example question where the learner is asked to write a main idea sentence stating their opinion on a question about cruise ships. Are cruise ships the best way to travel the world and experience new places? And they're asked to give two supporting reasons in their sentence. Here's our learner's response. Cruise ships are fun because you get to see a lot of different places all on one trip. If we look at our rubric, we're expecting a clear opinion to be stated and 2 supporting ideas. In this case, the learner did not express a clear opinion, but they did give 1 supporting idea. Perhaps in your context, you want to ensure that if the learner doesn't express a clear opinion, they can't earn any points for supporting ideas. In this case, you would use additional grading guidance. Here's the rubric in our rubric editor. I'm just going to go into edit here, and I'm going to go to this new field, additional grading guidance. And I'm going to add a new piece of instruction, and that is if the learner does not express a clear opinion and earn marks in point 1. They can earn marks for supporting ideas. And I will simply save that. Right now, let's grade this again and see how it's changed. And we see here we got 0 out of 3 because the response does not directly address whether cruise ships are the best way to travel. No opinion was given, so there's no points for supporting reasons. And you can see a recommendation for how to improve the response there as well. And here we can see an example of our MathML and LaTeX support. So in this question, the learner is being asked to examine another student's solution to an equation and to identify the mistake they made. And so here we see the equation beautifully rendered. This is MathML. We also support LaTeX. And this is very exciting. You can see the formatting in there as well. Very exciting as it allows us to provide a great experience for numerous subjects being scored with Feedback Aide. Our next item is Item Bank Health Check. We've made it easier to manage high-quality content when using Item Bank Health Check with the ability to edit AI-generated suggestions and tag items on export. Reach out to your CSM if you're interested.
So let's take a look at editing suggestions for Item Bank Health Check. So here we have a collection of items where we run a job to check for bias in the content. As we review the questions that have suggestions, we now have a button that allows us to edit the suggested changes. So clicking into it, we'll have the option to actually edit the question, and you'll see that the question stem has already been updated with the suggested change. So maybe for this example, I don't want to mention any backgrounds here. So I'll simply delete that. We can apply the changes that we've made and save the suggested item as well. Now when we can go back, we can see that the change has been reflected in the review. This really gives the user more control in suggestions being made while still staying in the Item Bank Health Check workflow, which helps to create that better user experience.
And that concludes the overview of our final long-term support release of 2025. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Customers can log a ticket at help.learnosity.com. If you're not a customer, feel free to email us at team@learnosity.com. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you.